80% of the people who speak English in the world today are not native speakers. Why would it always be the responsibility on the learner? Automatically, it's their fault.
I am not responsible of all what happened in the relationship. For me, there is three aspects to be very inclusive. There is the responsibility of the person. You have the relationship, and then you have the environment.
Welcome back to the second episode of our podcast with my guest, Patricia Cyprien Cloarec. I don't like to talk about people in the third person, so even though I'm presenting you, Patricia, I'm still speaking to you, so you are a successful entrepreneur, author, coach, and supervisor, the founder of the École du Coaching Inclusif in France, and your entire professional life is guided by powerful values: authenticity, diversity, and inclusive leadership. Thank you for coming back, Patricia.
Thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome. Last time that we spoke, you shared your personal journey from being held back by a desire for perfection to finding freedom and peace, or bloom, as you called it in English. That journey required, I would say, and I imagine, a lot of personal courage, a lot of effort and time. And that was you that did that. And today I want to talk about both sides of the relationship in communication, not just the learner's effort, the person who's working on their language, but also the other. Now, when I speak about the other, we often speak of the native speaker. But I don't know if you know this, but about 80% of the people who speak English in the world today are not native speakers, the English speakers. 80% of the English spoken in the world is spoken by non-native. When I say non-native, that means that it's not their mother tongue, it's not their first language.
Yeah.
It's second or third. It's another one, right? So actually, most of the English spoken in this world is spoken by speakers of other languages and English. And so, coming back to this idea of inclusion, there's this question of the learner who will feel more or less inferior to the person who has a higher level or a perceived higher level. So the person who masters the language, the native speaker, whoever we want to call them, they're the other. They're the one that has more ease in the language in any case. So here, yeah, I'd like to talk about that. Just to give a little bit more context, as I accompany language learners in coaching or in training, I see these learners putting in so much effort, trying so hard, battling these issues with making themselves clear, but with their own questions of self-judgment, judging others, worrying about their accent, worrying if they're understandable, worrying they might not understand the next sentence. And they tell me stories about how they hold back from speaking a lot because they don't want to bother the native speaker or the other person. They don't want to slow the conversation down. They don't want to be a burden. And and so in my sessions when I'm working, I do my best to share the burden in a way, take a step towards the other person to help them, to make it easier. Because personally, I believe that it should be shared, that we share responsibility in the conversation. Why would it always be on the onus or the responsibility on the learner to take every one of the steps, right, to get into it? Automatically, it's their fault. How many people, if I'm not clear in speaking and they don't understand, a lot of people will assume it's their fault because their comprehension isn't good enough. But maybe it's because I wasn't very clear. in what I said. Maybe it was my fault, right? Or I have responsibility in choosing my words and being careful.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to talk to you about because I know that inclusion is really your subject, and just talking about inclusion through this angle, I found could be really, really interesting.
It's very interesting. And last time when we spoke about my journey, I had this thought about inclusion of myself, including myself. And for me, inclusion is not only being very aware of the fact that there is diversity in the world with people, with everything that is around us. For me, there is three aspects to be very inclusive. There is the responsibility of the person. The person, like me, for example, I have the responsibility to find a way to go through my difficulty, to find a way to be free,
Mm-hmm.
free to sing, free to act, free to share, free to speak. If I take this example with English,
Mm-hmm.
and I have power on this part of my difficulty
Mm-hmm.
myself. Then you have the relationship. And for me, so it's very important to understand that there is a relationship. I am not responsible of what happened in on all what happened in the relationship.
Mm-hmm. Not every part of it.
And
Mm-hmm.
not every part of it. I'm not the only one that should be aware of what is going on during our connection.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the environment. What the environment can do to be more inclusive. And the environment is where, for example, when I work on a training session,
Mm-hmm.
how inclusive, how open, what is not said but present in the environment that makes someone feel at ease to be himself, herself, or not.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, there is three aspects. And when we were talking about my journey, I thought that's one part, but you're right. You're right. In this topic, there is another part. There is a relationship with the person I'm talking with. And even if this person has a bit a meilleur,
A better?
even if this person has a better English than my English, if I don't feel any judgment, I will feel free. But
Mm-hmm.
if this person show like disrespect or maybe judgment, something that make me feel uncomfortable, it's not my responsibility. It's not because of my English, because the only question is, am I understandable or not?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
there's an objective perspective on that. I
yeah,
think there's the subjective, their perception, my perception of their perception,
mm,
and then there's this objective. Is it really, is it concretely, objectively understandable? There's that question. Yeah.
yes. And then, as I said, the environment. So the link for me between my journey with English and talking another language and inclusion is very strong.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's very important for each of us to understand that the responsibility is not on all the English thing. It's only on what am I responsible of? It's myself and
Mm-hmm.
myself in the relationship. And maybe understand or be at the right place in the right environment and checking that the environment is okay. For example, when I have to work in English, I'm very, very transparent, maybe too much on my English level. I say I'm not fluent in English, but I can work in English. I can be understandable in English. But my English is not the English of an English native, and my level is not perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But the advantage of this level is that when I am with, and your statistic was very powerful because it's right. when I work in intercultural environment, I don't know, out of 10%, only one or two is native, English native
Mm-hmm.
speaker.
Mm-hmm.
So my English has a power because it make everybody relax with
Mm.
English.
Right. Right. You actually have an advantage over me in a way to help to create this safe space.
Yeah,
If I may, like I said in our last conversation, because I'm a native speaker, I tend to scare a lot of people, right?
yeah,
Because
yeah,
because they perceive me as the one that's going to hear, that's going to judge. But you don't have that, so I never really thought of it in that way. But in a way, it is. If the goal is to help people to feel safe to communicate, you do have an advantage for the people who fear the judgment of native speakers or high
yeah.
level speakers. Hmm. Yeah.
And it's that way. I think we were talking last time about English is taught as inclusive or not. And in that way it is.
It is inclusive in that way because
Because it's enable us to connect
yes.
with like no judgment, with
Ah,
openness.
okay. So imagining that you all feel like you're at the same level or the same position in the way that you're non-native English speakers.
Or not. For
Okay.
example, you're in a group,
Yeah.
you're a native speaker with non-native speaker, and I am the one that leads the group, okay?
Right. Hmm.
And you will not be the person that will catch all the attention. Oh, this participant, she's English speaker.
Hmm.
Because I will be the one that catch the attention of the group and lead the group.
Right.
And as I'm not a native speaker, I make some mistakes. Sometimes I'm looking for my words, and I create this relationship between participant and me. And it's very inclusive because we share something, even with the native one. Because the native one will be able sometimes to find some words for me, or if I don't know, and we will share something that put down the English part. We are
Hmm.
just here to communicate. I think that the fact that we all have this English language, if we don't want to be the ones that speak the best English in the group, but we all have this will to communicate, to
Hmm.
connect,
Hmm.
and the level of the English is not the issue. I
Yeah.
think in France,
Hmm.
there is a difference because I went for a school trip when I was doing my business management studies. We were
Hmm.
in London to see insurance companies. And as French people, we all spoke English, and the studies were in English. And the companies, they all say, we don't care about your level in English because we know that we will be communicating and you will understand. And the more you speak, the more you improve your communication skills. And
Right.
uh, in France, we don't have this. We have this tendency
Yes.
to evaluate, judge, see, instead of being focused on the message, on the communication, on what is happening in the relationship.
Hmm.
You have to show a resume before showing our will, our capacity. And it's the same, I think, in language. That's why I had this difficulty because we have to show something before leaving something.
You have to prove that you're able. When you said resume, it's like to actually prove you have the level, prove it
Yeah,
to somebody. The focus is more
yes.
on,
For example, for
yeah.
job, you
Hmm.
have to send your resume, okay? But and
Mhm.
everything is this is I think the base for the decision for the recruiters,
Yeah.
okay?
Yes.
But
Yes. Yeah.
you
Mhm.
can lie on a resume, but it's okay.
Yeah.
And someone who has atypical job journey with not a good French good uh,
Yes. Yeah.
resume, we have difficulty find a job because we have to prove on a paper
Yeah.
before working and prove in real life. And I think it's the same in English. We have to prove that we have a perfect English before being allowed to practice and work and communicate with people.
Yeah. Yeah. That is so backwards. That is so backwards. And thank you. Thank you for all of those ideas. And so yes, coming back to this question of is English inclusive? I don't know if that is that the way that you said it, but I understand that when we're all speaking or choosing to speak English, when the environment is or when the energy, the environment, the perceptions, the angle that everybody has, when it's inclusive, when the
Open.
focus, the main focus of the environment is we're working on being understandable, understanding each other. That's the focus. That's when I would say, yeah, English can allow us to be inclusive in a way, to connect, right? So I agree with you on that point. And your illustration with the resume, I think, is a very illustrative, a great
Mhm.
example to show how we can be exclusive. We can exclude, we can discriminate based on what's on the paper and not what's on reality, and stop people from having these opportunities to prove themselves or to just practice or to put themselves in those situations where they become able to speak clearly. So I think, yeah, I hear that it's it's really about our attitudes and our choices that we make as the ones who are participating in the relationship, who help to create this environment. And it is a really general thing, and it's maybe a little bit almost dangerous to generalize so much. But yes, I do feel this in France, this general pressure.
Yeah,
Right?
to be
You
perfect.
sighed earlier. There's something about the tension that makes it so much that you feel crushed, right? And you can't even breathe. There's this pressure to perform. And it's
Yes, it's a
not
pressure
like
to
that everywhere.
perform.
Hmm.
We have to perform and to have good rates, and everything is about judgment. If you have 14 out of 20, it's satisfaisant.
I
And satisfaisant,
know.
what a bad word. It means nothing.
Yeah,
Satisfaisant. I don't know which word in English will catch all the satisfaisant things.
yeah. I don't know, but yeah, that's so true. Just in general, in the education system in France, when I came and I saw how hard you have to work, whether it's in English or another subject, to get a 19 or a 20. I remember getting a 20 once on an official exam, one that really counted for the diploma, and the jury member had to come back and justify when you get a 20, they have to explain why I deserved a 20 because it's like the top of the world. Really? It's so hard in the French system to get good grades, and I think that the education system is connected to that, like to this getting a
Yeah.
14 in English. What does that mean? And I think that's one of the main things that makes it that I'm here today because I came to France, I experienced learning the language in French and then in helping French people with English, I realized I felt this heavy, heavy, heavy weight. And then I realized, wait a minute, you're working on irregular verbs, you're working on grammar, but that's not their problem. It's not because we're going to master that table of irregular verbs that it's going to get any better. There's something deeper than that. And it's
Yeah,
about creating this environment.
exactly.
And like you said, I love the way that you illustrated this image of everybody's responsibility. If we put all of the responsibility on the French education system, you're not getting anywhere either,
No.
right? You need to take your well, you. I'm not talking about you, but
Yeah, yes, yes.
yeah.
Understand.
Yeah, it's just there's a lot of different factors
Yeah.
in the relationship and it can affect us like crazy, like crazy.
If you learn something and you, for example, someone come in a coaching process and come in the coaching process because everybody say you have to work on yourself, you have to become the best version of yourself, you will not have the same engagement and results as compared to someone that come because she or he wants something for him or herself that mean for him or herself. Is not an adjunction, it's a will. And for example, in English, when we learn English at school, even after, is to be better in English, to have a better grade, is not because it makes sense for me. I want to speak English because I want to communicate with my friend when my parents will go in vacation in Venezuela, for example. I don't know.
Hmm.
Maybe people speak English in Venezuela too after Spanish. You know,
Yeah.
when you do something because it means something for you, for
Mm,
yourself, it's much more powerful that when you do it only for a grade. Because for a grade, you learn the lesson and you forget it. There is no link between what you learned and the practice.
exactly.
And
Exactly.
what I understood with you in this coaching process we had together is that I make the English speaking thing my thing,
Mm,
my
mhm.
will. And I connect this English speaking issue, what is not an issue, but I connect it with my objectives, my vision, and me. That's why I had this very powerful impact. We didn't work on my specific English skills, but on my relationship with English. And this
Yeah.
is really inclusive. Inclusion is not being a specialist of what excludes someone. Exclusion is working on what can make someone feel perfectly at ease to be himself or herself. So the person has to do something. That's why I was telling that the person has to do something. The relationship matter and the environment too.
Mm. Oh, wow. Could you just imagine for a second in the education system if it could be completely transformed
I
to
agree.
help the kids find meaning? That's one of the big things. It's like that's why I decided when I had the choice to stop taking French in school, in middle school. I took 1 year, and the next year it was an option. I told my mom, I'm not going to live in France. I'm not going to Quebec. Those are the only two places I knew about that spoke French at that time. I don't need it. I had no reason to learn the language. So I was allowed to choose not to. If I
Mm,
was forced to continue French, it would have depended on my teachers, I think, the environment. Certain teachers
yes,
can bring that sense of
exactly.
when they have the passion, when they have that energy and they bring that into the classroom, that can transform the students and give them that sense of, I love English. How many people have come to me? It's so black and white. It's so black and white. There are people that come in, or no, a lot of them don't come to me because there's too much negativity around the language and they've blocked it out. Some
Mm,
people, they need English in their lives, right? So they're forcing, but the feeling connected to it is so negative that it's
mm,
like painful. It's painful. It's work. It's uncomfortable. And so all this negativity has been built around it. And then there are some people that have this spark In that spark, there's some meaning in there. Something made that happen. Maybe it was connected to a teacher. Maybe it's something about the sound they love. There's something that created a desire, a
A
pleasure,
real,
a love.
yeah,
And it can be mixed with what we were talking about, this heaviness, right? So it's like this duality of attraction and all of that just to say, yeah, I totally agree with you on this point of finding meaning and how that can completely transform your relationship
yeah.
with the language, how you feel in it, how you are pulled towards it, how you feel when you're speaking it, if you actually want, how you feel when you decide to engage in a conversation.
Hmm.
That all changes.
It changes that the fact that the most important thing when I speak English, for example, is not evaluating my level of English, but being sure that I am understandable and we have a connection.
Mm,
And it's two very, very different energy. I am not focused on myself. I'm just focused on the relationship.
mhm,
Because, for example, in our situation, our relationship is without any judgment. There is confidence, trust in the relationship. And you create this environment where you put the relationship before the technical skills.
mm,
You know, we have the three parts. And meaning is the hurt, as you said. If you think about educational guidance or school guidance to help students to choose what they want to do in the future, I think that what is a very what is a lack today, there is no meaning behind this question. It's just a technical question.
mhm.
What specialty will you choose next year? In what school will you go next year? It's not a general meaning for the life of the students, what he wants in his life. And if we take the three parts, you have my school guidance, which seems to be very important from the adult point of view, but for me now it's not so important, but I think I have to make it important now.
Right.
Uh, so there is no meaning at this moment for the students. In the relationship, what the teachers, all the supporters put in the school guidance things, it's how do you see your future? No, it's not this question. It's what's our grades
Mm,
today? What do you want to do? And regarding what you want to do, what's your grade?
yeah, of
Is
course.
it is it meaningful regarding to your grades
Yeah, right.
and
Is
the
that connected? Is it
environment?
possible?
Yeah. And the environment, if we take the third part, is about pressure of the environment, because you cannot make a mistake, because if you change, it means that you are not responsible. So
Right.
everything in the, for example, school guidance is without any meaning for the student, is in the relationship, is in the environment.
Mm.
And this is an exclusive, for me, an exclusive environment.
It is. It's turning things around backwards and putting meaning there where it really should not be. It is so backwards. Yeah, that does that makes a lot of sense. They're so interconnected. This the energy, the power, the responsibility of the environment and how that affects us as learners. If we come into just briefly, I feel like I'm opening up a space that's going to be very hard to speak about in just a few minutes, but maybe you can help me choose about coaching, how as a coach we can look at inclusion. The coaching relationship was one of the subjects, and the other one was coming back into the more theoretical or opinionated parts of it, where I was saying that how I don't think that English is inclusive in a way. Go into that conversation a little bit more. Just the fact, you know, what bothers me so much is that English is not a neutral language. It's
No,
not, right? And so we're right off the bat, right from the beginning, there's an imbalance
right.
because somebody chose English as the language. So those are two subjects that I want to
The
go
two
into
subjects
and
are good. We can do like a mix of the two subjects because there is no balance. There is inequality at the beginning with English because some people they learn English when they are in the during the pregnancy
I'm
of the
sorry, people learn English when?
during the pregnancy
Pregnancy, yes.
in the belly. Je sais pas si on dit belly
Yeah,
en
of the
germain.
right from the womb.
From the
From the womb.
womb.
The womb is the little space the baby grows in.
Oh, nice.
WOMB. Mm, the womb.
WOMB.
Mm,
Womb.
the womb.
Okay, so there is an equality between people with English from the beginning, but there is an equality between people in life. It's the same. Okay, we have the same equality with English and with life. And some people they learn English from the womb, and other people learn English at school. Some learn English at school from 3 years old. And in France, for example, you start learning English, I think you are 10, 11 for the very beginning, 10, 11. Okay, depend on the school.
Right.
Um, and some others they will learn English just even after. So inclusion is not being something equal. Okay, it's how you put equity. No, equity, équité.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
How you put equity in a situation that is unequal.
Mm-hmm.
And it's normal because we had to choose a language. We have to choose one or to create a new one.
Yeah.
But creating a new one, if you think about how our civilizations grow and evaluate, it's not very realistic.
Yeah. It's
Now it's not
yeah.
realistic.
Mm.
Maybe at the beginning it would have been,
Yeah, it's
but
a bit late. It's a
it's
bit
a bit
late.
late
Yeah.
now. So we have this English language. What should be nice and to be very inclusive with English is that we all in all countries consider that English is our second language, at least because it's our human language. Why
Right.
not a
Mm-hmm.
human one? And but this will put some equality more than equity.
Right.
Okay. So being inclusive in this part is what we just said before. It's my part too, my will and the meaning I put in learning English and my engagement, my investment, for example.
Mm-hmm.
My
Commitment
investment,
also. Mm-hmm.
yes, my investment to learn English because it's important and I want to learn
Mm-hmm.
English to communicate to, I don't know, maybe I practice a sport, I want to be professional, I want to speak English, but my investment. The investment of my teacher, you know, in France, there is some teachers, they teach English, but they don't like English.
Mm-hmm.
So there is something in the relationship too. And then the education, the environment, for example, the education about English, how English is perceived in other countries with non-native speakers, countries, how English is perceived. Is it just a langue vivante un, living language one, living language two? No, it should be something that we know all over the world that we should connect speaking English, so giving the tool for everybody to understand that we have this connection with English.
Mm-hmm.
Now, someone could choose Spanish and Dutch and not English. It would be weird, but it's possible. Technically, it's possible.
Mm, true.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
so for me, choosing a language is not excluding other languages, but not putting specific adaptations, not putting a meaning and the will of the governments, different governments in the world, to choose to have a common language to discuss, not between only between them, governments, but
Mm,
we know that all over the world we are going to create something so that people will be able to speak, at least to communicate in one language, common language. And we show that it's English, Spanish, whatever, one. But
mm,
this is about, if I take my triptychs,
yep.
this is about the will of the person, the government. My will to have this connection between all countries in the world, the relationship between governments and the environment, the global environment.
Mm,
There is no will. We just see that most people speak and learn English, and it should, and it, I think, should be the language we can agree on. So you have financial documents, they are in English, medical documents in English. If you want to work on trading, it's in English. And you have to learn English because this document will be in English, but it's not a will. It's like something it's a fact.
it's imposed.
It's
It's imposed.
imposed.
There's no choice there.
There is no choice. And
Mm,
the problem is that the problem
mm,
is at this point, there is no choice. It's not something that had been chosen.
right. Yeah, totally aligned with what you said. And that's why I brought this subject in to speak with you today, because I think there's just so much to do, too much awareness that's lacking in this department with everybody, me included. Even though I think about this a lot, I know very well that I could do a lot more to do my part, to be more inclusive, to be more aware of the words I'm choosing. When you mentioned like this global level, right? Of using a language. Well, there's a big difference between what we call standard English and global English. It's like another form of English. Global English is something that's kind of simplified. It's more explicit. It's this form of English that makes it easier to connect between all of these different people, cultures, and everything,
Yeah.
right? Why isn't global English taught in school?
Yeah.
Why? Why? Things like that. And even just in our own perceptions, just being more aware of that. What can I do at my level? What words am I choosing? What did I say today that wasn't very inclusive in a way because I chose phrasal verbs, expressions? I could simplify a lot more, or just change the way that I'm speaking to make it better.
Yeah.
It's hard. It takes time. I can also take more time and effort to work on my comprehension, on understanding different accents. Where I come from in Canada, there's a lot of immigrants from East India. When they come in, their accents, and sometimes people don't really lose those accents. It's a challenge. And I don't see people making an active effort to go and work on understanding. It's a challenge for the listeners. Why don't they share that responsibility, right? It's a big
It's
enough
about
challenge.
it's about the desire you want to connect with someone. When you talk to a child, you you want to connect with a child, and you, for example, in your physical posture, you
Right. You
go
lean
down.
in, you crouch down. Yeah. You
Yeah,
slow
you simplify
down.
your language. And even
Exactly.
if the child says something very far from what you really want to say, but you understand because you are willing to understand.
Mm-hmm.
It's about what you really desire. And when you desire to understand, you understand.
Mm.
When
Wow.
your
Yeah.
desire is to connect with people, you adapt and you say that I cannot speak with very technical, even at work.
Yeah.
Uh, I, I used to work in financial departments, and I saw that there is some people, when they don't want you to understand, they use lots of technical words. And for me, it's a way of cutting the relationship and maybe
Mm-hmm.
to protect themselves. Because if I use technical words, you will not be able to ask questions. You will not be able to see that I'm not really, I'm not mastering my subject.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
using technical words cuts the relationship we could create together on the financial subject.
True.
For me,
Mm.
your desire and your intention in the relationship is very powerful
Mm.
to see what you want to do, not what you can do, but what you want to do, what effort you are willing to put in the relationship. And
Yeah.
I had this training session where there were lots in a coaching. So it was a coaching training session with people from different countries. And one or two of them said, "Oh, I don't understand her accent." And I know that the accent was not the issue because I communicate with the other participants. But
Hmm.
the problem was that what was taught at this moment
Yeah.
was difficult for them in their conviction, in their confidence, in their self-confidence. It
Mm.
came to them instead of saying, okay, I have to focus, I have to accept that I don't know and I need to learn. Instead of this, they decided to say, I don't understand English, but
Mm.
English is so simple and so inclusive. So,
Yeah, Red's a really good point that there's the other person's intention, and it
mm,
can have nothing to do with the person's accent. It can be because they're feeling super vulnerable in a situation. So they're going to take a shortcut and use the language kind of as a pretext, maybe. But
mm,
in any case, it's not always about the accent or
no.
about the way the person communicates. Patricia, I want to honor your time and wrap this up because we need to. I would have loved to continue this conversation. I would love to continue it on
We will.
inclusion and on other subjects too. So this is just a goodbye for now. I just want to take a brief moment to highlight that, or just to repeat that, yeah, we all have blind spots, that vulnerability from the learner deserves empathy and safety. And at the same time, yeah, there's so much that can be done in all different spaces to work on being more inclusive. That there's a really powerful intersection between the confidence that we have in our own linguistic capacities and systemic inclusion. It's a big thing and it's all interconnected. And the one question I would like to ask to our listeners today is to think about it within the week as a speaker or as a listener. How can we, you, be more inclusive? Just think
Mm,
about it. Pay attention to what's going on and see what the listeners can do to maybe consider modifying, changing, adapting to be more inclusive or to include oneself more or to include others in that perspective too. And next time, in the third episode that we will do together, maybe we'll improvise, but what I had planned to go into was to speak about how you transformed your confidence, your energy with English into your vision. So go deeper into this
mm.
question of the meaning that you mentioned. So thank you very much, Patricia, for this
Look
time.
forward to have this discussion with you.
Thanks so much. So yeah, we'll hope you'll join us next time.